the next step in the process is to hard qualify. So at this point, we're a little bit further in the sales process because at this point we're really trying to determine, is this prospect for real? Is this, because this is where our goal is to determine, how much time are we going to invest in this prospect? Is this prospect really going to purchase from us? Let me give you an example. So if you, let's say you get an unsolicited RFP, request for proposal, and it is awesome what they're asking for. I mean, if you close this deal, you're going to make a ton of money, right? And it's such a big deal that if you follow the proposal and respond to it, then you're going to make a ton of money. But that's going to take a lot of time to respond to that proposal. So if you just respond to it without a lot of information, you might get excited. You might invest days putting a proposal together, and that's an opportunity cost, right? That's taking days away from finding prospects. And but the thing is that if you were to engage with that prospect, which is this is sometimes difficult with an unsolicited RFP, which could give you a clue. It's difficult to get more information, but if you were to ask that prospect, you might find out that they've already been talking to another company for 3 to 6 months, and then they're sending you this RFP, and they're at the 11th hour. That means you don't stand a very good chance of winning the RFP, and so if you spend a week away from selling, working on a proposal that you have a very little chance of winning, then you're spending a lot of opportunity. You're having a high opportunity cost for a low probability win, even knowing the payoff would be huge. So that might be a bad decision. Now, it's not to say that you don't reply to the proposal or submit a proposal, but if you have this knowledge, what you can do is you can protect your time. So instead of spending a week putting together the perfect proposal, what you can do is kind of phone it in, right? Put together a boilerplate proposal, put something together, maybe spend a few hours on it, and then send it over and not really worry too much. Who knows, and see what happens. So it's having that additional information that allows you to make better decisions, and again, screen the good prospects from bad. Now, the way that you hard qualify, again, it's asking it's asking hard qualifying questions, and let me show you. The first thing to point out is that we don't do this at the very beginning of the sales process. So we don't hard qualify in a cold call. Like, for example, an important thing to know about a prospect might be if they have budget to spend in the area that you're talking to them about, right? But you don't need to determine if there's budget to spend when you're at the very first stage. At the very first stage, you're just trying to determine, are they in the red quadrant of the pie, right? So we don't need to know about budget. We just kind of need to know, okay, maybe what role the person is in, and do they generally need what we have? But once you get to that next stage, which could be a meeting, it could be an appointment, it could be a presentation, that's where we can further qualify and ask some of our hard qualifying questions. So that's where you do it in the process. But so what you're trying to do is you're trying to determine, is the prospect qualified, meaning I can spend more time invested in this prospect, and they have a higher probability of purchasing, or is it and by the way, also with a qualified prospect, you can have more confidence forecasting this opportunity in your pipeline. If you're a salesperson, you have to have report what deals are going to close. If you forecast and commit a deal, and then that gets into the company's forecast for the quarter, for the year, and then that deal doesn't hit, you look bad, your managers look bad, it becomes a very stressful situation. It's not good. You never know what happens with you. You never ultimately know when a deal's going to close until it's signed, but you can have more confidence forecasting deals the more qualified they are. So this process will give you a lot more confidence knowing which deals to really lock in as committed and when to be cautious. You might put a deal into your forecast as upside, meaning it could close, might not, and so this will help you to know which to do there. And part of that is knowing whether the prospect is truly qualified or unqualified. So on the left side of this screen, you see qualified. So they have to have a medium to strong classification in all of these categories. A need to purchase, meaning they need what you have. You're dealing with the people that have the authority to purchase, meaning you're not selling at a manager level and it's really a VP level that signs the deal and the VP is not even involved. They have the ability to purchase, meaning there's some sort of funding allocated or approved or available to access. And they have the genuine intent to purchase. Intent meaning the intent to purchase from you, the genuine intent to purchase from you. Now, remember, I just gave you the example of the RFP. Now, if a company does an RFP, they have a genuine intent to purchase. But if they've been working with, let's say they've been working with another vendor for 6 months, and that other vendor actually helped them to put the RFP together, and then they send you the RFP and don't even want to talk to you about it, then they have the intent to purchase, but not the intent to purchase from you. So we need to be good in all four of those areas. Now, if they're not good in one of those areas, in terms of on the right side of the screen, a caution in any of those areas makes it an unqualified prospect. Meaning, they can be good in 3 of the 4, but just one makes it bad. And let me show you. So there's 4 types of basically unqualified prospects, and you don't need to memorize this perfectly, but if you kind of take some of this with you and keep some of this in mind when you're talking to prospects, you'll be able to screen better. But there's the prospect that has there's the no need to purchase prospect, which means you're dealing with the right person. Let's say you're talking to the VP. They have the funding to make a purchase. You're the only one they're talking to. They're not talking to any other companies. But at the end of the day, their current system, it's not too bad. Meaning they love what you sell. They think it's really great. But what they have is not too bad. So you might get meetings and have some good discussion going, but when they see that dollar figure and it's time to purchase, the deal can stall out. They don't genuinely have the pain points that you fix. So that's something to keep in mind. That's why it's really good for you to ask probing, qualifying questions that determine a true need. There's also the prospect that has the no authority to purchase. So let's say that things are failing, you can fix them, there's a need to purchase. They have the money to spend, everything's great. You're the only vendor they're talking to. They intend, if they're going to purchase, they're going to purchase from you. But again, you're dealing with a manager, and it's not the right person that is actually going to sign the deal. So you can't, in this manager saying, oh yeah, we're going to purchase. But if you're not dealing with the person that signs the deal, and maybe the VP signs the deal, but and you don't have to interact with the VP and they be your main point of contact, but the VP has to be involved, or at least aware of what the discussions are, and maybe sponsor what you're working on. Moving on to the next one, there's 2 more. The no ability to purchase prospect. Now this could get confusing with the funding when we say ability, but the authority. This can get confusing with authority, but it's more ability, meaning the money. So someone could have the authority. So you're dealing with a VP or the owner, but at the end of the day, they just don't have the money. The budget's already been spent for the year. So that's another one to look for. And the last unqualified prospect to look out for is the no intent. And I gave you an example of that. Everything's great. They need something. They have money to spend. All the right people are involved. But at the end of the day, they don't intend to purchase from you. And so that's often because they're talking to other companies and they're just kind of kicking, they're wanting to get, sometimes they might get your pricing so they can use that as a negotiation tactic against the company that they want to purchase from. So those are 4 characteristics. Again, you don't need to memorize those and know exactly when you're talking to someone, oh, this is that such and such unqualified prospect. But you should know to kind of look in those for those 4 key areas. And we just went through those. But so if you might say, okay, well, I get that. Here are exact questions that you can ask, and these can be the same regardless of what you sell. Now, the thing is, with your pre-qualifying questions, the pre-qualifying questions, if I'm going back to the step 1, those are different for you from other people that sell other products. They're unique to you, and they can be different for you, for the different people that you sell to. The hard qualifying questions are kind of the same regardless of who you sell to. So you could use these exactly. And in fact, these questions are all provided inside of Sales Scripter as a hard qualifying questions tool. Actually, I believe if you when you signed up for this, you got a hard qualifying question document. So you should have most of these. I believe they're all the same. But questions to ask if there's a need, if the prospect genuinely has a need to purchase what you sell. There's a big difference between wanting what you sell and then truly needing. It's like, just about everybody would like to have a new car, but they don't really get to the point to pull the trigger on a new car purchase until there's something going on. Their lease is expiring, the car's breaking down, it smells. If things are okay but they could be better, that becomes more of a want than a need. So the goal here is to determine if there's truly a need. So some questions to ask are, hey, what happens if you don't do anything or don't make this purchase? What does that look like? Because somebody could say, hey, this is great, oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. Okay, well, I get it that you love it, but if you and I were to never talk again and you were just to keep using what you're using, what does that look like? Is that bad? Is that painful? Or is that kind of okay? So there's some other questions here. And you could also, there's some date questions. Is there a particular date that you need to do something by? So when you ask these questions to really truly qualify, you want to assess their answers, and there might not be exact answers that you're looking for, but you want to kind of get a feeling. Are the responses you're getting really strong? Which means there's a negative impact if the prospect doesn't do anything, or is it kind of medium, meaning it would be decent, it would be cool, or is it weak, which means things are okay. They would like to purchase from you, but things are okay if they don't. If it's weak, then your prospect might be cautionable, or you might be concerned in the need to purchase category. Authority to purchase. So now we're trying to figure out how much authority does the person that we sell to have. Now, so you may hear the word decision maker, right? Are you dealing with the ultimate decision maker? And I'll tell you, this can be a difficult thing to sometimes ask about, because you don't want to just come out and say, hey, okay, well, are you the decision maker? And you don't want to ask that for a couple reasons. One is it can make the person defensive. It puts the person on the spot. You don't want to ask that also because the prospect may think that they are the decision maker. They're a mid-level manager, and they think, they don't know what you're talking about, and they think, yeah, I'm the one that makes the decision, when the reality is that they're not the person that actually gets the money, signs the deal, whatever. So you don't want to necessarily say, hey, are you the person that makes the decision? Here are some questions that you can actually say that are more diplomatic and also get you the more accurate information than what you need. What's the decision-making process? So if we say, let's do this, what does that look like? And go through each step. If you go through each step with the prospect to where the money and contract are signed or the deal is done, you're going to learn and see exactly who the decision maker is. What parties need to be involved in the decision. So there's some other questions there. To assess the feedback, if the prospect you're dealing with is the person that approves the decision, that's very strong. If the prospect makes the decision but has to get approval from someone else, it's a bit medium. And if the prospect does not make the final decision at all or is not involved, it's weak. Questions to ask to see if the prospect has the ability to purchase. Now, this can also be something that's difficult to find out. And remember, we're trying to figure out, is this deal for real? This is trying to protect us from spending good, valuable time with bad prospects. By the way, what does this look like if we don't ask these questions? This is where if you run into these situations where you end up sending a proposal out or a quote, you give a demo, you might travel for a meeting, jump on a plane, and when you don't ask these questions, your prospect may go in the dark. And you thought it was a deal that was going to close. You forecasted it with your manager, and you spend a lot of time following up with this prospect, calling them and emailing them, and you don't know why the prospect is not returning your call and whatever, and you have nothing to say to your manager. And the reason why is because they weren't qualified. And you did not know that, or you don't know that at this moment, and you don't know why because you didn't ask these questions. But to figure out if the prospect has the money to spend, again, instead of saying, you don't want to come out and say, hey, well, do you have the money for this, or how much do you have available to spend on this? Those are difficult questions to ask, and not the right questions to ask, because it puts the prospect on the defense. Here's some diplomatic ways to get the key information you need to know. Is there a budget approved for this project? What is the budget range that this project needs to stay within? That's a great question, and it kind of takes a place of how much were you looking to spend for this. They don't want to answer that because they think that's going to impact the proposal that you give them. They don't want to. But if you ask them about a range, most of the time they're going to say, oh, they'll throw out some number. So part of the asking of these questions is being very direct. Don't tiptoe around, and if they're on to you, they don't have to answer these. So if they say, I'd rather not share that, no big deal. You're not going to get in trouble or ruin any rapport that you have with the prospect by just asking good questions. If anything, you might get a little respect from the prospect, which could help to build your relationship. But again, once you get the answers from these questions, you want to kind of assess them. So if the funds are available and they're approved and allocated, you're strong in this area, you can check this box. If the funds are available but they need to be approved, the company has money to spend, but it's just you kind of have to go through a committee or something, kind of medium. And if the funds just aren't available and it's not really clear where they will come from, you need to be careful. And the last category is the intent to purchase. This is probably one that is real easy for us to kind of forget about or to not want to do. And again, we're talking about the genuine intent to purchase from you. And what this comes down to is kind of like where are they at with talking with other people. You want to get a feeling for where the prospect stands. I mean, are you the only company they're talking to, or are there other options that they're pursuing? What other companies are you thinking about purchasing from? If they say, oh yeah, well we have looked at such and such product. Okay, yeah, great. Well, how far along are you talking with them? That's a really good question, right? So if they've been talking to you for 3 months, but they just called the other guys 2 weeks ago, well, that's pretty good. If it's vice versa, that's not so good. So you can get some really good information from them where they're at with the other competition. If they're not looking at anybody, let's see, I've jumped ahead there. So then you want to assess sort of the feedback you're getting from these questions that you're asking. If the prospect is serious about making a purchase and they're only talking with you, you're very strong. You're good in this category. You can check this box. If they're medium, if the prospect is talking to other vendors but is favorable to your company, right? So you can easily say, well, what do you think about their solution? How does it compare to ours? Is there anything that you think ours does better than theirs? I mean, those are fair questions to ask. I've been in situations where I found out a prospect was talking to my direct, most fierce competitor, and I asked them, well, what kind of pricing are they offering you? What are you looking at? That prospect sent me over the proposal of my competitor. And part of it was having good rapport, part of it was asking the right questions, and part of it was just being direct. I mean, if I were to tiptoe around, well, do you think you could possibly share with me some other pricing, the prospect's going to feel like they're doing something wrong, and they're going to say, then they're going to say, that probably wouldn't be appropriate. But if you're really direct and deliver in this way and say something like, oh yeah, oh, so okay, so what did they propose you? I'm just curious, what kind of pricing did they offer you? And I mean, you'd be surprised if you're just really direct, you might get a very direct answer. So, and then the prospect might be really weak in the area with an intent to purchase from you. If they're talking with they're looking at a lot of other options. They're very favorable to those. They've been talking with them for a long time. So you want to be concerned. So the key takeaway there is we went through four areas, right? The need to purchase. Do they genuinely need what you have to offer? Do they have the authority to purchase? The authority to say yes to get the deal done? The ability to purchase? Do they have the money? And the intent to purchase. Are they really serious about doing business with you? So if you're good in those four areas, those are the types of deals that you can invest a lot of time with. Jump on a plane for. Spend a week on a proposal. Put into your sales forecast. So